Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Authors on the Air. I'm your host, James Latwell. And with us today, we've got CJ Box and his new book, Battle Mountain. That's just a stunning cover, by the way. They did a
Well,
really great job on that.
well, thank you. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, I love the cover. It's one
Yeah.
of the few where they actually ask me in advance, "What do you think the cover should be?" And I said that a
Uh-huh.
falcon landing in a mountain, and
Yeah.
they found it, and I'm really like it.
No, it did a tremendous job. And I was wondering why the Falcon. And then as the book progresses, like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a tie there.
right.
So
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry. I mean, this is the 25th book in the series, in the Joe Pickett series. And how do you keep a series fresh and attracting readers over that period of time? Because that's there's some dark magic going on there. And I mean, how do you pull that off?
I wish I could say I had a great strategic plan. I didn't know that there would ever be a book two, in the series. I didn't know it would be a series. In fact,
Mm,
the when the first book was accepted by Penguin Putnam, 25 years ago, they wanted two more with Joe Pickett, and the series was born from that.
wow.
I think a couple of things is, the books are not whodunits. They all have contemporary issues and themes and controversies, and those always, stay fresh. And I think the other thing might be that the Joe Pickett and his family, his wife, his three daughters, all aged in real time. So
Yeah.
the Joe Pickett's oldest daughter, who's very much a part of this book, is several years out of college, living on her own. And in the very first book, she was 7 years old. So I think it's always different when the characters change and mature, and hopefully those are two things that help keep it fresh.
Yeah, I think they are, and that's one of the things I appreciate about your books is it's deeper than just this mystery that has to be solved. There's the personal impact that those mysteries have on the characters, and maybe that relates to why Joe Pickett is such a popular character. I mean, I witnessed firsthand at the Tucson Festival of Books with you last year that, I mean, you packed an auditorium of 300 people that were all there to hear about, Joe Pickett and, what he brought to the readers. I mean, what is it about him that resonates so deeply with your readers?
Well, I don't know. I've got some ideas. I think part of it is, the family that is in the
Mm,
book. Different readers can relate to different people. Um, One thing I do find that it's really rewarding, and is that um, the the people who come to the book signings and to the events like you're talking about tend to be about 50-50 men and women, which is unusual. It's not all men, it's not all women, and various ages. I mean, I love it when I meet a grandmother and her grandson who both read the books, come onto the signing line. And I
yeah.
think it's just because it's got some appeal to different different types of people in different walks of life for different reasons. And my readers are all over the board. I don't think the books have a certain agenda to them. I think they're just talking about issues and people and controversies, and that has luckily has some appeal.
Yeah, I mean, and this book is no different. I mean, at the end of 3 Inch Teeth, the book just previous to this, I mean, Joe and Nate in particular were kind of run through the ringer. And
Yes.
so what do they face this time in Battle Mountain?
Well, at the end of 3 Inch Teeth, Nate Romanowski has a very traumatic event happen where the bad guy murders his wife in
Mm,
front of his child, and it's devastating to Nate. Knowing Nate Romanowski, that he's going to go get revenge, and that's what this book is. He and a fellow falconer, outlaw falconer named Geronimo Jones, team
right.
up to go after the bad guy. And Joe Pickett has a different assignment directly from the governor to find uh, the governor's son-in-law who's gone missing as an elk hunting guide. So even though the stories are parallel throughout the book, they aren't working together, but they do converge at Battle Mountain in the end without any spoilers. So those who know Nate's character knows that he's been through the ringer several times,
Yeah.
has legitimized himself, become a small businessman, a father, a husband, and now he's back to ground zero. He's you know, based. He's back to his kind of primal self.
Yeah, that's really, it was really well drawn because you could just picture yourself, there with Nate, and that's another thing that I appreciate about your stories is you have a way of immersing the reader into that setting, into that wilderness environment. I mean, those opening chapters of Battle Mountain where we're with Nate initially. I mean, I could feel the cold and the ice, and I mean, you just have a knack of pulling the reader into that setting so much that it becomes a character in the book. I mean, how do you think about that as you put one of these stories together?
Well, I try not to go on, but it's certainly important to me, you know, to describe the sights, the smells, the light, the temperature, the extreme weather. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sometimes in the books, because I think that they're outdoor books. They take place in Wyoming. It's a very outdoor state. There's not much that happens indoors, and I just want to render it as accurately as I can. And I'm a hunter and a fisherman, and get outside a lot and try to replicate those weird feelings. I mean, I've gone fly fishing in stupidly gone fly fishing in rivers that weren't yet thawed and had chunks of ice hit me. So I know what that feels like, and I just want to convey that.
Yeah, it's really well done, and you're right. It's not done in lieu of a story going forward. It just kind of immerses you into that setting. So I thought that was really really cool.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, oh my pleasure. Thank you. Now, when you initially started the series, like 25 years ago, how did you create Joe and pick a game warden as your protagonist? Because that's a little bit unusual, especially at the time. He wasn't a cop, not a PI, that kind of thing. How did you get into Joe Pickett's head?
I kind of backed into it in a way. I was a journalist. I wanted to tell a story, and the first book is called Open Season, about a very a big incident in Wyoming, at least, when a creature thought extinct was rediscovered in a little mountain town. A creature called black-footed ferrets, and everybody had been looking for these animals for years. And when they were found, the little town where these ferrets were, almost everybody in town knew that they had been there, but nobody
Mm.
reported it. And I thought that was a very interesting take on a new kind of Western story. And when I started writing it and researching it and fictionalizing it, the first protagonist was going to be a sheriff, and then it was going to be a journalist, and then I was working for the local newspaper and doing ride-alongs with the game warden at the time, and
Mm.
realized that's the right person to advance this story. He would be involved in these issues on the ground, dealing with landowners, dealing with federal agencies, driving his truck around with his Labrador in it. So, and the family aspect. The game wardens do, in fact, live in state-owned homes with their families who, whether they like it or not, or get involved with things. So all those elements made it, I thought, a good way to propel that story, not thinking long term, not thinking, the world is waiting for a Wyoming game warden series by any means. But I'm glad it worked out that way.
Yeah, it did, and it was fresh in its approach then, but it still hangs true today. I mean, this series and Battle Mountain's no different. Um, I mean, folks that are new to the series can start off here and not lose anything. I mean, this is a self-contained story in this book, and sure, there's a lot of threads that go through it, but I think folks that pick up this one, on as a first CJ Box novel, I think they'll be quite happy with it.
Well, it's always rewarding and surprising to me that with each hardcover book, the sales have been higher than the previous one, meaning there are some people who are picking that book up for the very first time. So
Mm,
I try to write each one as a standalone. Obviously, there's connections to earlier books and characters reappear, but I
right.
don't ever want someone who picks up the 25th novel for the first time to be hopelessly lost in the backstory and the characters. At the same time, I don't want to give so much backstory that longtime readers are rolling their eyes, going, yeah, we know all that. Get on with it. So yeah, that's a fine line, but it's rewarding.
Yeah, that would be a fine line to you know that character better than anybody else. So it's how much do you put in and how much do you hold back a little bit. So it's a balance.
Right. And Joe
Now,
Pickett is now 52 years old because the books are being told in real time. So
yeah,
he's no spring chicken.
yeah, but he's still managing to get out there and sleeping under the stars and doing his thing out in the wilderness. But yeah, he's slowing down a bit, like we all do. But yeah, he's still a formidable force out there in the world.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to give anything away, and it kind of relates to the cover a little bit with the falcon on it. But Nate is a falconer along with Geronimo. And towards the end of the book, we learn that there's this unique bond that he has with his birds. How did you come across that and develop that as a little subplot in the book?
Well, I have never been a falconer myself, but I grew up with a guy that I based the Nate Romanowski character on. In high school, he was a year ahead of me in high school. He was the middle linebacker, big guy, blonde guy. He went on to the Air Force Academy and then to Special Forces, and I was friends with him. And he was a falconer. And I used to go falconry hunting with him and his falconry buddies, who were all a little bit insane and all had a strange outlook on life. So I became fascinated with that. And one of the things that really has always stuck with me when the falconers talk about the perfect bird is a stage they call Yarak, Yarak, that a bird reaches that it's absolutely indestructible. And falconers like to think that maybe they can reach that certain stage of being as well. And in this book, I amplified that to almost a supernatural degree.
Yeah. No, it was really it was a surprise to see it, but it made total sense. With Nate and his journey in this book, it made total sense. Love it.
Good, thank you.
Now, there's a group called the Centurions that kind of figure into this book at the end. Without giving too much away, how did you come up with the idea to bring this collection of people together?
Well, like a lot of things I put in the books, it's based on something real. Where I live in Wyoming, it's pretty remote place, and there's some real high end guest dude ranches in the area.
Yeah.
And one of them, for at least 50 years, has been hosting a group of people like the Centurions that fly in every year in their private jets. The little jets are parked under the wings of big jets at the airport, and everybody goes out and plays cowboy for a few days. And they happen to be, very, very high executives in a lot of different important industries. And the joke has always been, one or two well-placed bombs could wipe out the military industrial complex. So of course I thought about that for years and years and years and decided to use a group like that in this book.
No, it was really effectively done, and I there's so many current political threads that are through the book, but done in a way that's not preachy or heavy-handed. It's like, here's what's going on out there, folks. This could happen.
Yeah,
So,
that's always my aim, is not to come at things with an agenda, but to explore different topics from different directions and hopefully render them authentic to at least those who are into that kind of thing.
Yeah. We're going to end up with something we call 3 quick hits.
Okay.
I want to ask you 3 questions, and I want to put you in Joe's mind space. So, what's Joe's favorite cocktail? What does he like to drink?
Oh, just bourbon and water on ice.
That fits. How about his favorite music? What does Joe listen to?
Kind of older country that his daughters chide him about, and They're always giving him mixed tapes and sending him music, more modern music to listen to, but he refuses.
I love it. And then finally, what's Joe's greatest fear?
Oh, probably screwing up so badly that he somehow loses his family, or that they lose respect for him.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Folks, we've been talking with CJ Box, the author of the latest Joe Pickett novel, the 25th in the series. It comes out February 25th.
Right.
And folks, you're going to want to grab this one because it's going to be flying off the shelves. So get yours. Yeah, Chuck, thanks so much for spending a little time with us here.
Thanks for having me back. I always enjoy it. Thank you.
You bet. Take care. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.